SML, this is it. We've had a wild weekend. Clink got hammered. Um, Colt is still trying to figure out the tiebreakers. Bomber has guaranteed victory. It's the final playoffs. Bomber, how we doing today?
Oh, I'm excited. I'm real excited for this. Not only is
Oh,
it
I
the
believe
playoffs,
it.
but we're done with Madden 22 after these are over.
Yeah, it's been a long cycle. It's been a wild ride. We've been blipped. Um, we've changed teams. It's a whole thing, but finally we have made it. Um, as a whole, it's been a good cycle. I think I've enjoyed it, but definitely that burnout is starting to set in as we get to the last home stretch here. But this is all we got. So one shot left. I'm excited to see who takes it.
Yeah, absolutely ready to move on. But before we do, we got to knock these playoffs out. And why don't we start with? We'll start with the AFC. I think we can do kind of like we've done the last couple, where you pick the AFC, I'll pick the NFC, and we'll see where that leaves us. Um,
Yep, that sounds good.
Starting with the AFC, we've already had Prime played Bean. What do you think about that game?
Well, I promised Bean that I would give him a 10 folding chair rating on the scale. He figured in every other game that he's played, he's gotten prime in every playoffs. Um, and he figured we've always put him at like a 1 or a 0 folding
Mm-hmm.
chairs. He figured it didn't work, so we'll give him 10 this time, and maybe it'll change up the juju. It almost did. He had a shot. The ultimate legacy drive for what could have been the best upset of the cycle. And unfortunately, those 10 folding chairs, they caved in pretty hard. He choked pretty much just as bad as Doink. Must be a thing in the primer posse here.
Yep.
Um, had his shot, he blew it, throwing up a bomb into double coverage instead of just getting like 20 yards. Um, and the goat does as the goat does. So
Yep. So
can't say I'm all that surprised, but
he's gonna move on, and then we'll move over to the NFC matchup. Then the first one, and Clink versus Dan. I'm gonna go with and even though the seeding shows Clink is the favorite, I think he's still the underdog, just being against Dan. But I'm gonna take Clink in this one. Um, Dan's been down partying in the Dominican Republic. Um, he calls it a mission, and all I seen is pineapples and beaches, and so I think all that partying is going to get to him, maybe a little jet lag, and I think Clink is going to take this one on the back of his defense. Dan's offense has been struggling this year, and I think this is a bad matchup for him, and I think Clink is going to sneak by and take this one as long as he's fully recovered from the weekend.
yeah, which he might not be. I'm not sure if he's even woken up yet today. Um, but the thing with him is this is definitely the time for Dan. He usually has played Dan well. It's just going to come down to can he stop the run? Can he get the sheds? I think we're going to be able to tell off like the first drive or two how Clink's looking. But if he can get some early momentum, this could be a really tough battle for Dan. I just don't think he ever figured out that two tight end system. Um, Trying to reset at quarterback has really killed him. I think he actually played Holt in his must win game. It felt like he was having a little more success with Hurts. But regardless, Clink's got a solid defense. The secondary's fast, and that generally doesn't bode well for not good quarterbacks.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with Clink on this one. I got him moving on. Moving over to the AFC though, it's me versus Monty. You're right. I did predict or guarantee a win. But you may have been sleeping when I guaranteed it's going to be by 2 scores. Uh,
Wow, so the guarantees are just piling up. I
yeah.
was certainly asleep for that.
Yeah, we figured we just
Um,
double down, and we're just going to go ahead and beat them by 2 scores and move on. But I'll leave that up to you, what you think is going to happen.
hey man, I'm no one to disparage a guarantee. If you say you're going to beat him by 2 scores, you're going to guarantee it. I'm all in. I mean, this is the guy to do it against your division opponents. You know what he wants to do. You've played him quite a bit. For the most part, I think you've kind of figured him out.
Yeah,
Um,
he's had some success lately in the regular
yeah,
season. Haven't had the opportunity to play him in the postseason because he hasn't been there.
yeah, that's very true. So it looks like he did actually beat you in both games this
Yep.
season, both by 1 score. So they weren't exactly blowouts. I know last season you torched him a little bit. So I certainly think it's possible. Division games, you know him well. Um, you're gonna have defense flying on all cylinders, and let's be honest, there is something different to a playoff game. Monty hasn't really had to do it yet. It's not an easy opponent against you. So I'm all on board.
Yeah,
Two scores, I think you got it.
we'll see how he does in the bright lights. But
Yep.
in the AFC or NFC, two teams that have been in the playoffs this year, and now they're going to play NYT and Knoll. I don't really know what to make of this one. I didn't think Knoll would be back in the playoffs, and then here he is sitting at the 6th seed. And
I
NYT,
think
I don't even know if
NYT
he's
would be
played a
back in the
game and
playoff.
he's made the playoffs. So uh, both guys kind of surprised to see him here. I'm going to go with NYT, though. I think the team is just too good. Kyler Murray with the escape artist. His running back has X Factor. He's got Hopkins. He's got Rondale Moore. He's got, obviously, that Cardinal defense. I think he's going to beat Knoll.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against that team. Again, like you said, I didn't think they'd be here. I feel like he's played 3 games all season, and he's got a 10-7 record. So the NFC West is something special. Um,
Yes, it
the
is.
team's too good, I think, in the first round, especially playing Noel. If this was something where he's playing Clink or Dan or me, I think NYT struggles a little bit, but not against Noel. I think it's going to be a little too much to overcome. I don't think Noel's got the defense to keep up, and I think NYT escapes this one.
Yeah. So that's going to take us to the 4-5 game in the AFC. You've got Woods and the Bills, and he finally doesn't have to play anybody in the AFC North. He gets Meats and the Chargers. Do you think the result's going to be any different, though?
Man, this is a tough call. Woods, obviously, the old Weenie Hut Junior division there. Um, Not a ton of success outside of that division. He did have a good season this year at 11-6. He's playing some good football. I didn't realize his running back was as good as he is.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, and Meats, we all know Meats is not exactly known for defense or playoff success. He's had a good year too at 12-5. Justin Herbert's had a solid passing season, but that is another division that is really not all that great. You have DMUs there. Um, so yeah, it's kind of a toss up. I would not be shocked to see this game go either way. I'm gonna give the nod to Woods just because I'm happy that he's not playing you, basically.
I like it. I like seeing Woods advance as long as it's not
Yeah.
against me. Um, so that'll set up in the AFC. 1 versus 6, which will be me and D Muse, and then Prime versus 4, which is Woods. So we'll get back to that. But first,
Or
Dump
Woods
versus
can't catch a
Doink.
break.
Uh, this is the tough one. We saw Doink beat Dan last season and make it all the way to the NFC Championship game. And then we have a Dump that maybe wants to play. I don't know. It's not like that NFC East has been that tough really
Mhm.
most of the cycle. So I think he's going to get his first real big game maybe of the season. And I think it's going to be Doink that takes it.
Yeah, this is maybe my favorite matchup of the first round. Both guys kind of not known for succeeding under the lights. Dump's schedule, he did take a couple of those. I think the Pauly and Spooky losses were both forces, but he did lose to Prime in what was a pretty big game. The rest of the schedule criminally easy. He did lose to Doink in week 3, 23-19. So not a ton of impressive wins in this schedule. I just think that we're gonna kind of see Dump do what we've seen out of Dump pretty much in every playoff previously, which is he talks a lot, and plus, let's be honest, we're in the cycle of Dump where he's due for a loss. It's
Yeah.
always, he's locked in, he's quiet, he starts beating up on some people, then he starts getting a little chirpy, starts getting a little confident. Then he starts going really off the rails. He's loud. He's picking fights. He's guaranteeing wins. He's going to chase Prime next cycle. Who knows? Then he gets absolutely pounded in a big game, usually in the playoffs, and then he's back to being quiet. So I think we're in the getting pounded stage,
Yep.
and I think Doink's going to win this one.
Yeah, I think there may be no other more guaranteed SML tradition than that. Maybe Prime trading Bobby Okereke would be a second, but
Yeah.
it's pretty much a sure thing. So that would leave us with let's see, that would be you against Doink in the divisional
Yep.
round, and then Clink against NYT. So we'll just start with that. We'll go with you and Doink. I think Doink he's been a solid player, but when he plays the guys that maybe he's going to be the underdog against, he doesn't really get too many upsets. He upset Dan last year, but watching Dan play this season, maybe that wasn't much of an upset. We just kind of Dan's Dan, so we give him the benefit of the doubt, and maybe he's really not playing like it. So maybe that wasn't an upset, because then we see I played him this year, wasn't even close. And I just haven't been impressed with his wins, other than initially thinking that Dan one was a big one, but maybe it wasn't. So I got you over Doink fairly easily, even though it's a division game, third time seeing each other. Whether or not you've played 3 times, I probably doubt it in this season of force wins. But I think it's going to be you easily over Doink.
Yeah, so we actually did play both of our games this season. We actually played them like back to back. It was a weird schedule for me. I had him, then I had a bye, then I had him again. He has struggled on offense this season, previously against me. It is difficult. These, third time in a season, anything can really happen, and he does have a defense with a ton of abilities still, even though the offense is kind of dipped. But I'm not worried, so
All right.
I'll take myself on that
Sounds
one.
like you agree. Okay. So that would leave then me and D-Muse. I'll let you do this, but I'm going to pick me.
I love the confidence oozing out of you this playoff. I feel like the past couple of heat checks, it's always been like yeah, I'm here, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be a hard game. I just don't know. This heat check, you said, screw it. I'm just going to win.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to run through the AFC, to be honest. So
what's that?
I said I'm just going to run through the AFC. So
yeah, Bomber's just going to run through the AFC.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. He's not worried at all. We'll see him in the Super Bowl. I do think this is a tough game. I think D-Muse has just a difficult style to play against in the playoffs, just because all those quick, easy routes and running the ball is tough to stop. But if anybody's got the defense to make some huge plays, it's certainly going to be you and Myles Garrett. He didn't get to face any of that when you guys played recently.
Nope. He didn't face even the backups. It was the third string got out.
Yeah. You didn't even bench your starters. You sent them off planet. Those guys were nowhere to be found. So yeah, I am totally on board. I'm down with Bomber and the AFC chip.
All right. Then we've got over in the NFC side, we've got Clink and NYT. This is another one I think Clink is going to go, and he's going to move on to the NFC Championship and kind of take that next step. NYT's team has carried him this far, especially in that weak division. Force wins everywhere. He's given out quite a few force wins. But I haven't seen him really beat anybody that good. And maybe I don't even know which games he's played, because it's been so many force wins. But I think Clink is playing really well. He's got the Lions team as good as they're going to get, right? There's no more drafts, no more free agency. So I think this is going to be his chance to make a move. And unfortunately, I think he's going to run up against you in the NFC Championship, but I think he gets there.
Yeah, I certainly can't argue with that. I do think he is playing good football right now. This is, obviously your side of the bracket, so I mostly defer to letting you pick. However, this is going to be my challenge to Clink. You better win. And in fact, for a little more motivation, just to put a chip on your shoulder, it's really early in the day for me. Give me a break. I'm picking NYT in this one. So Clink, you better do it.
Okay, so you're taking NYT. I'm looking just to make sure I didn't miss any big wins by NYT, and I don't see any.
Here's the thing: I'm not even.
I don't know which.
I'm not even confident that NYT is going to play this game, even if it is a playoff game.
That's a good point too. We have no idea if it's going to get played. It is scheduled for tonight, but that doesn't mean anything. So that means our last game in the divisional round is going to be Prime against Woods. What do you think? Is this even going to be close?
Woods, it was nice that you got to avoid Prime or Bomber in the first round for a hot second, but that fun is going to run out, and you don't have much of a shot here. Sorry. I'm happy you're going to get your first win, but you're certainly not going to get the second one.
Yeah, and I think after struggling against Bean in round one, I think Prime's going to come locked in, ready to kind of smooth things out, and it's going to be at the expense of Woods.
Yeah.
NFC Championship game, Panthers-Lions. Again, I think Clink's playing really well, but I don't think it's going to matter. 2 leagues we're in together. You haven't lost a game yet. So I don't think it's going to start against the Lions. And I got the Panthers moving on to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and in a game of me versus Clink, he's eventually going to beat me. I know it's going to happen. It's just not going to be this season.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. But it may be close. But I don't think it's going to be even a 2-score game.
It'll definitely be close because I will guaranteed do something stupid. Like instead of running the ball, I'm gonna chuck up some bomb
I believe that, but
and
I
we'll
think
do
you'll
it.
have a big enough lead by that point that it's not going to matter. That Lions
Fair.
team just not good enough on defense, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so then that leaves me versus Prime in the AFC Championship, and I'm gonna go ahead and say I'll beat Prime too. Might as well just pick myself. So I'll leave this up to you though. It's your side of the bracket.
Hey, I'm enjoying this. This is fun. Um, I do think this is the season to knock off Prime. He just hasn't looked fully there. Um, I don't know if it's kind of an end of cycle thing, but really all season it's been a lot of weird games of he has wins, but they're kind of he's got to come back. He's struggling early. I mean, all of these games are really close. 35-21 against Finns. He was losing that game for majority of the first half. 32-27 against Dump. That wasn't really in all that much doubt. 31-24 against Matt. 35-28 against you. But every single one of these games is close. He lost to QB twice. He did get railed by EA in the second one. But like this is a guy who just gave up 50 points to Meats very recently. He lost to Pauly. Offense really isn't clicking for him right now.
Yeah, it seems like
So
Baker's been a problem.
yeah,
Just from what I've seen, I think when I played him, it was 3 or 4 interceptions. And had Jeffrey Okuda not dropped an interception that was thrown right at him with under 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, that game was over. So I don't. Baker's been hurting him. That's what hurt him against Bean. It'll be interesting to see if he can turn that around.
yeah, very uncharacteristic season. 4,500 yards is solid, but 24 touchdowns to 23 picks. So he's turning the ball over a lot. He's not throwing a lot of touchdowns. In comparison, Jordan Love had 49. So it's just not been the same prime offense. The defense is obviously elite. But at this point, you've played him enough that I think you'll be able to put some points up. And Baker throws 1 or 2 picks, and he could be in trouble. So I think if there's a season to beat Prime in the AFC Championship game, I think it's this one.
Yeah, and I'll get Greg Newsome back for the first time this season since
That is
week 1,
important.
which will be nice.
Yep.
It'll be nice to make it to that game just to get to play with him one more time before the cycle's over. But
Yep.
assuming this works out, it's a Heat Check Super Bowl. And hell, I'm going to pick myself again. What the hell? Might as well
Why
just
not?
go
I'll
ahead.
pick myself too.
Yeah, we'll just go ahead and pick ourselves. And I think it'll be a good game, especially if we can both teams stay healthy through the
Yeah.
playoffs, which is always an issue. But I'm looking forward to it. I think that's what it's going to be. So that's what it's going to be. Now we'll
Cool.
just have to.
I'm all on board. That sounds good to me. I think we've
Now we
done a
just
good
have to
job.
go out and not lose our first games and completely regret the entire
That
show.
would be, that would be absolutely hilarious. We
Yeah,
come on this show and we're just like, yeah, sorry everyone lost watching, but we're just gonna beat all of you.
yeah.
And then we both lose in the first round.
That would be that's probably exactly what'll happen. But so let's go
If
through.
it does, I'm blaming you.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's last season of the cycle. I don't care.
Yeah.
So before I start going like 6-10 with the Jets or whatever, 7-10, 6 and I don't even know how many games we play. So
Yeah, I'll be going in with, the busted throwing motion Trevor Lawrence, so I'm gonna
there
have an
you go.
adjustment period as well.
All right, so let's go through and we'll just start. Maybe we'll go start with the NFC and we'll go 7-1 and then or 8. Yeah, 7-1 on one side and then 7-1 on the other side with our folding chairs.
Cool.
First one's Dan. Dan, the 7th seed in the NFC. I'm gonna give Dan 10 folding chairs. He hasn't made a Super Bowl even since the first season post blip.
Yep.
There's only so long you can complain about your team that you picked, especially if you claim to be a good team builder. You can't blame it on the team 6 seasons in. At some point,
Yeah.
you're just struggling. And now this is not going to be a good playoff for him coming off of the vacation and all that. But I think the pressure's there. If he doesn't at least get to the Super Bowl, there's got to be questions.
Yeah, we had him at 10 last season. I know for sure we might have had him at 10 the season before,
Yeah.
the last one with Russ. I think I'm going to bring the number down a little bit for this season just because I think Dan's kind of realized that he messed up with the Falcons. We've heard him talk about how, he really just botched the quarterback situation, which we all said when he originally did
Yep.
it, but he has now come around on that fact. So I think he's realized that he has not really been good this season. He didn't expect to be here. The NFC kind of just choked a free playoff spot away, as the NFC does. So he's struggling. He doesn't have a great first round matchup. He doesn't have a lot of confidence in his quarterback. He hasn't really figured out his tight ends. So I think at this point he's happy to be in the dance, which does take some pressure off. I'm gonna take him down to a 7. I think it's still relatively high just because, like you said, it is Dan. He has not been to a Super Bowl since season 1. He's obviously a guy who, he expects to win multiple, not even
Yeah.
just get to multiple, which he hasn't done. He expects to win multiple. So I think the number is still higher than usual, but just with the way the season's gone, I think it comes down from the 10 a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what's kind of crazy is we talked about, like you said, we've given him high numbers before, but that was because we thought he was expecting to win multiple. Now I think I'm giving him a 10 because he's got to get back there.
Yeah.
He chased you into the NFC and hasn't been able to get past you since the first season.
Yep.
And I almost wonder if that's going to play into his team selection in Madden 23. If he sees that AFC getting stacked, maybe he runs to the NFC and makes a little easier path so he can get to the Super Bowl a bunch. Because
tries to assert that dominance again.
Yeah, because right now, I mean, he couldn't make it in the AFC prior to the blip, and he only got one in that first season post blip. So maybe his days of chasing the top guy, I don't think he's going to be eyeing up QP anytime soon.
Yeah,
which seemed to be his next target, but
right.
I think this one may have backed him off. So then 6th seed is Noel. I think Noel's got like three folding chairs. People didn't even expect him to be here after Aaron Rodgers left, and he's turned it around to at least make the playoffs. So we'll see what happens there, but I think it's pretty low pressure there.
Yeah, and it's not a great first round matchup either, playing against the most loaded team, probably honestly in the SML, not just the NFC. Ability wise,
yeah,
we've talked about it
with
before.
Better abilities.
It's a mutt roster. So yeah, I think even just factoring in his competition, his first round matchup, I think Noel's got to be pretty low. Just being here at 11-6, I think is a very impressive season. So I can agree with you on that with a 3 or 4.
All right, so then we got at 5, we've got Doink. I think that's like an 8 or a 9. He made that jump to the NFC Championship game. He's got a loaded roster. He's got to make that next step to the Super Bowl. And I think this is really going to be. I mean, there's nothing after this. He's going to have to start over with a new team. So I think this is a decent amount of pressure here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 9 as well. I don't think he's fully at a 10 because I don't think anybody expects him to get past me in the NFC. But obviously he knows the narratives. He hears them very much so. He pushes back against them all the time. Prime doesn't let him forget about it. Calls him the most unclutched player in the SML. So Doink hears it. He's brought up his high school stats that he hit a couple game winners like 15 years ago or whatever it was. So I think it's high. I think Doink's at a 9 for sure. I think he really wants to get to a Super Bowl in this cycle, because I mean there's no guarantee that the NFC is this easy again next cycle. So
yeah, absolutely, this could be
and
shot.
He certainly won't have the Bucks next cycle.
Yep. Well, you say that they could be there. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess you never know what people are going to do, but let's be honest, it's
yeah.
I think everybody's
the Vikings. That's going to be a little tougher. So next up is 4 with Dump. I think Dump's always got a 10.
He always is a 10.
His playoff history and just his the way he guarantees wins and just talks so much shit. So I think it's a 10 for Dump. I don't think that ever changes.
Yeah, yep. Especially when he's in this phase of the Dump circle, and he's yapping this much, and he's definitely at a 10.
Yeah. Next up is NYT. NYT, I kind of go back and forth. One, I don't even know if he knows he's in the playoffs, because he's missed quite a few games, and it's not like the NFC West has put up much of a fight anyway. So, it's kind of, he expects to be there anyway. Hell, he took off half the season and made it, and I think it was like a 2-game lead. I don't even think it was close. But I think at the same time he wants to at least win a playoff game or make some noise in the playoffs. I think there's like a pride thing there. And
Yeah.
so I'll put him at like a 5. He does have the best roster probably overall in the game, especially abilities wise. So it'd be tough to have no pressure. But like you said, this game may not even get played. Who knows? But I'll give him a 5.
Yeah, the number that came to my head was 6, so we're in the same ballpark here. I think, with the matchup against Noel, he is expected to win that one, or should be expected to win that one. So I think that bumps his number up a little bit. But this is a guy who I'm pretty sure was fully moved on to Madden 23. Talking before the season, he's like, I'm going to be away so much, I'm going to give away so many games. He's like, my cycle is basically over. And here he is as the 3 seed winning his division. So that's got to be a success in and of itself. First round matchup's pretty easy, but after that, I don't think he's, fully dialed in and expecting much. So
yeah, I think it's
I'll
the
go
first
6.
matchup is probably where all the pressure is, and then anything.
Yeah, you don't
want
want to go one and done.
House money.
Yep.
So then the number 2 seed over there, Clink, on the other hand, I think this is a 9. I think he's a guy that wants to, or maybe feels like he's undervalued, or maybe not undervalued is the word, underrated. We'll go with that. I think he feels like he should be talked about in the higher group of players, and the problem is he hasn't really done anything to get there. This will be his chance. He can go through Dan, and then NFC Championship he could go through you. But I think the pressure's there too, because if you go one and done as the 2 seed to Dan, who's been struggling, that kind of is going to knock your argument down a bit. And so I think it's like a 9 for him.
Yeah, this is a guy who's, absolutely waiting for and looking for that kind of like signature win, that one that we can point to and be like, okay, like Clink is finally arriving. We see flashes, we see glimpses, and then every time we do, he seems to come out and kind of stumble a little bit somewhere. So I was going to put him at a 9. I think if I lose a game before I play him, I think his pressure scale goes through the roof, off the charts. Because if, I'm not sitting there waiting for him in the NFC Championship game, I think he fully expects to be that number 3 on the list. People talk about, me, Dan, and then after that, it's just been kind of an empty, who else in the NFC? I think Clink thinks that he should be 3. So, if he can take out Dan, if I get knocked off, then, I think Clink's pressure scale goes flying. He's up at like a 15. I think he's got to get there in that scenario.
Yeah, if he goes up in the NFC Championship game against a Dump or a Doink or something like that, that's definitely, he's got to feel increased pressure. And like you said, it's not just him that's thinking he's in that tier getting ready to bust through, but it's been talked about every show that we talk about who's the next guy to win a Super Bowl that's not in the Big 5 or whatever. That name gets brought up every time. So that's got to be increasing the pressure as well. And then we've got you over there as the 1 seed. I think the pressure is pretty low considering you pretty much have the cycle wrapped up. Nobody can catch you in Super Bowls. I don't think anybody can even catch you. You've got 3 Super Bowl wins, right? Or just 2?
I have 2 wins and 4
right.
appearances.
That's right. 2 wins. This would be your 5th appearance out of 6 post-blip cycles or seasons. So I don't think there's much pressure there. I mean, right now, I guess people could catch you in wins, but that's it. So Super Bowl appearances, not even close. So I don't think there's much pressure there.
No, definitely not. I think the 17-0 regular season record probably added a little bit. Normally I would have put myself very low, but to finish off the undefeated season, I think that is actually a little bit higher than usual. That's definitely something I'd love to have on the resume. So I think that bumps it up. I'll put it at like a 5 because of that,
Okay.
Maybe a 6.
Well, you'd know better than I would what your pressure is. So. Then we had
I
Doink.
wouldn't have been worried about it at all if it weren't for 17-0, and now I'm like, shoot, I kind of really want that 20-0.
So Doink gets the 7 seed. We had him as the 10. Myself as the 6 seed. We're gonna put that as the 10 because I guaranteed 2 score wins and then put myself all the way through to the Super Bowl. So I'm just gonna put that as a 10. I think that's pretty obvious why.
Not a lot of ways to argue that. Coming out first round, I'm gonna beat my division rival by 2 scores. Then I'm gonna go in and beat up the 1 seed. Then I'm gonna beat up Prime. That's gonna be pretty worthy of a 10.
So we'll
shout out
just
to
make that a
Beans
10.
who also
Number
Beans
5,
also has a 10.
meats. Meats has to be a 10. Um, you want to gain. You know, we talked about earlier this cycle that maybe Meats has lost the folding chair nickname, and we anointed some other ones, Polly, Dump, those guys, showing that they can fold just as well as Meats.
Yeah.
Man, but you come in against Woods in the playoffs and you lose to Woods, that's going to put it right back on you. I know
Yeah.
he's the higher seed, but that's the AFC East. Come on, that's Weenie Hut Jr. and you come out and lay an egg in the first round against them. That's going to be tough to fight off the calls for you to be the folding chair again, and so I think it's like a 10 for him.
Yeah, is kind of a nice default number for Meats. Just in general, the pressure's always on. He does have a better record than the guy he's playing,
Yep.
even though Woods is the higher seed. Meats had to steal John Ross to get here. So yeah, I think there's definitely some pressure on Meats, even though part of me is, I think part of that conversation is, can Meats even be the folding chair when most people at this point have just kind of written him off. But a first round matchup, this one is as much of a gift as it can possibly be. So if you lose this one, it's definitely going to haunt you. So
Yeah,
he gets a 10 because of the first round. After that, I think it falls off quite a bit.
I mean, everyone's considered the 5 seed to be the second bye, and
Yeah, yep.
here it is. You can't lose the bye. Can't get fired
Yeah,
on
you
your
don't
day
want to lose
off,
the
right?
bye week. That's a tough go.
All right, so then that leaves us with Woods at 4. I think all the pressure on Woods was to get here. I think everybody's talked about how bad that division is, so I think the pressure on Woods is just win the division. Anything after that is just gravy, but you got to win the division. So I think now that he's in the playoffs, I think he's still got maybe a 3 or a 4 for his pressure because he did get Meats, and I think that's a winnable game. But I think most of the pressure actually comes off when he makes the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I think just winning the division is, you're expected to do that, and then you're probably going to get a pretty tough matchup in the first round as the 4 seed. So, I don't think there's much. I think the matchup being Meats brings him to a 5. I would have put him at a 3 previously, but because it's Meats, I think it's a 5. That's pretty much a gift in the first round, especially considering, the 6 and the 7 seed, you and Beans, I would have taken both of you to beat Meats in a head-to-head. So, I think he lucked out on the seeding there, which brings him to a 5. But then if he wins that game, he goes to like a -15. So,
okay. All right. So then that means Monty at number 3. I've got Monty's at, I don't know. I can't decide if Monty's feeling a lot of pressure or no pressure. But I think I'm going to put it at an 8. He's talked a bunch of times about, I want to win the division. I want to win the division. I think he wants to make a run. If I'm not mistaken, he's made deep runs, maybe even won a Super Bowl in the primer before. So I got to imagine, he thinks he's going to win a Super Bowl here at some point in his SML career, which who knows how long that's going to be. But I think he's probably at an 8.
Yeah, I was going to go 9. I think this is the biggest pressure game of the first round, maybe even the entire playoffs. You've obviously guaranteed the win, and then Monty on the other end, he hasn't exactly been quiet. He kind of chirped back when you guaranteed your things. Okay, well, whatever Bomber feels like he has to do, like I'm just going to go play my game and get the win.
Yeah.
So I think Monty's pressure is up there a little bit too. We've definitely dogged on the primer posse for not performing when it matters. I think he would like to, help shed that. He's beaten you twice this season, so he's shown he can do it. And I don't think he wants to go one and done, especially when he's probably going to be chirping Dump at some point if Dump plays first and loses.
Yeah, or if he loses, he knows he's going to hear it from Dump. So
exactly, yeah, Dump's going to be relentless. They're both going to be ruthless to each other, regardless of what happens.
I'll tell you, that's the division
round.
I really hope happens next cycle. I would love to watch
that.
That
would be a blast. I think.
See.
At least the first season would be a blast.
So the second one is Prime. I think it's a 10. I know we've had quite a few 10s, but I think part of what plays into some of these 10s is it's the last season of the cycle.
You
don't want to go one and done with an upset or something like that. And Prime here, I don't think he's had, I'd have to check the record books, but I don't know if he's had a cycle where he didn't have 2 Super Bowl wins. And this is it. There's no more. So I think it's pretty high for Prime.
Yeah, so this would be I studied that chart religiously before SML trivia,
That's right.
and I can confirm that this would be the first season that he doesn't have multiple. So I know he doesn't want that on the resume. And round one, he didn't go one and done, but it also wasn't pretty. Basically
Yeah.
scored no points against Beans. Beans had him dead in the water. That game was all sorts of over until Beans forced that pass. So Prime's kind of sputtering. He backed into the playoffs, and I do think he wants to get there. I know he wants to face me again. He's talked about it on shows. I know he wants that second title. So yeah, he's absolutely at a 10.
Yep. And then D Muse, and again, I feel like I've given 10s to almost everybody, but I think D Muse is at a 10
You
for
get a
basically
10.
the
You get a
same
10.
reasons as Clink. D Muse is
Yeah.
very vocal about thinking he should be in that top echelon of players, but he hasn't made even a Super Bowl this cycle. So this is his last chance to kind of do the exact same.
Yeah, this is his last chance, and it's also going to be his best chance schedule-wise. In every other season, he's always had to play multiple of U, Q, and Prime.
Yeah.
Q, a lot of vacations, not in playoffs. U and Prime are going to have to, or no, so you would play D-Muse in the second round, right?
Yeah, I'd play him in the second round. So he would
Okay,
end
never
up
mind.
having to go through both of us, but
Yeah, that's
it's
out.
not going to
But at
matter.
least he doesn't have to face Q, I
Yeah.
guess. But that still doesn't change things. It's still a 10. He's still got to get through there.
Yeah.
He's talked about it enough. He's been close enough. He's 15-2. He's the 1 seed. Prime's not playing his best ball. You're playing very well, but Prime's not playing his best football right now. So this is definitely D-Muse's best shot.
Yeah, and I think if somehow I lose to Monty, that puts Monty and Prime in round 2, which means D-Muse gets either Woods or Meats to make it to the AFC Championship game. That means all he's got to do is go through the winner of Prime or Monty. Can you imagine if Prime loses to Monty and D-Muse gets to play either Meats or Woods, and then Monty or Prime? Well, we'll say Monty wins. So he's only got to go through Woods, Meats, and Monty to make it to the Super Bowl. And if he doesn't,
that might actually be the worst case scenario for him, because even if he does make it through, the one time he gets to the Super Bowl, we'd all be like, yeah, but he didn't have to face any of the big five guys in the AFC.
Yeah, there's really no win in there.
For him.
But he would at least have one, and
yeah, he would at least be there.
Would be through the roof
helpful
to win those games.
Yeah, he would fly to like the first ever 20 in SML history.
Yep. But that's gonna do it for our folding chairs. A lot of 10s, a lot of pressure in this one. Yep. End of the cycle. There's no way to kind of redeem yourself if you have a bad loss here, or to make up any ground. And I think that's kind of contributing to our high scores.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, it looks like it's 4:00 now, 4:10. That means we're under 3 hours away from the first SML Red Zone. We're gonna have 2.5 games on the Red Zone. Prime's setting up to have a third. I think they're gonna kick off like 30 minutes into the first 2 games. So hopefully everybody catches this and can tune in for those games, because it should be a good one.
Yeah, may the odds be ever in his favor. When I attempted this, my computer had an absolute meltdown and didn't work for like 4 hours. Hopefully that doesn't happen to his. But that should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. And it's the SML playoffs. This is the best time of the year. So I'm excited. I can't wait. This is the last one, and we should have a lot of fun. So
yeah, speaking of, that means it's the last heat check for Madden 22. And I don't have any cool graphic that says heat check will return, but I have a feeling that we'll probably be back for Madden 23.
It has been an honor, and I already can't wait to do it again.
All right, guys. This has been your final Madden 22 heat check. Be sure to check the SML Red Zone out tonight.
And watch the playoff hype video.
That's right.